All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the June monthly call. This is Misty Woods, and I will be conducting today's call. We don't have many on the call today, but that's kind of expected, being that it's the first week in June. Many people are starting their summer feeding or closing out their school year. So, as always, this recording and slides will be posted to Louisiana Fit Kids for those that could not attend. So let's get started. Today's call is going to be very similar to last month's call, a lot of repeat slides because we really don't have that much more information to share with you at this time. So we'll go over some SSO reminders again, some CEP reminders, some final rule reminders, a few USDA updates that we received on a call that we had with them last week, some more legislative updates. We'll talk about Sunbucks. Then we'll go over the memos, some upcoming trainings, and then any other reminders that we may have for you. So let's talk about SSO first. Prior to talking about SSO, I just want to make note that per TOIA, there are no summer feeding program updates at this time. If you do have any questions regarding summer feeding, you can contact TOIA Porter. So today we're only going to focus on SSO. So remember, when you're doing an SSO application, I would hope that everyone has their SSO application in by now, as we would like for everyone to submit at least 2 weeks prior to operation. We did have a couple of SFAs that submitted last minute, and that is hard to get it processed and approved in time. We always want to make sure you give enough time for it to be approved and processed prior to starting the operation. As a reminder, though, is one application is completed for all participating sites and that they should all be submitted on a single application. But if you do intend to do SSO beyond June 30th, once the new school year application opens, you must submit a new SSO waiver with that new application, because that means it's starting a new school year in July 1. So just a reminder about the reimbursement. So if the site normally receives severe need breakfast or the menu certification, which is the performance-based reimbursement, which everybody has, then these rates will continue during your SSO operation. So during the months of May and June, you will receive the current reimbursement rates, but then starting in the month of July, you will receive the new school year reimbursement rates, which we will talk about later. We still have not received those yet. So SFAs are required to review each SSO site at least once during the operation for compliance, to ensure that they have the compliance with meal counting and claiming, the menu planning, and food safety. You must also keep production records and menu records for the meal that are produced during your operation, as basically this is an extension of NSLP and school breakfast that's offered during the school year. So make sure, if you have a short service, let's say you're only operating for 8 or 10 days, make sure you get that monitoring done during your operation. Again, as we talked about before, as it kind of like being an extension of National School Lunch and Breakfast, you must continue to offer the menus that are in compliance with the current National School Lunch and Breakfast meal patterns, which is different from SFSP. We did have a couple of sponsors that switched over from SFSP to SSO and vice versa. Just remember that those meal patterns are different depending on what program you are operating. A lot of sponsors that do SSO, they continue to offer those same menus that they provide during the school year to just make it easy and as simple as possible for students and staff. Offer versus serve is still a requirement at the high school level for lunch, and it's optional at all grade levels for all the other grade levels at lunch, and optional for all grade levels at breakfast. Again, this is also different from SFSP. So for SSO, there are designated meal period times. Breakfast meal service must occur in the morning hours close to the beginning of the school day, and that's in federal regulations. And then lunch meal service must also occur between the hours of 10 and 2, and that is also in federal regulations. So you do the same claiming process for SSO as you do throughout the entire academic school year. The main difference is that the SSO meal count data is reported under a separate line item. So it's going to appear in a light green and it's displayed below it on the below the regular national school lunch line item. So as you can see on the screen, the green section on the bottom would be your SSO data. Participating sponsors must receive an SSO review from us no less than 5 years, every 5 years, because it follows the same administrative review pattern or review process and schedule. So the reviews of the SSO will occur when SSO is in operation. So those of you that are being reviewed, staff will observe a meal service at one or more of your sites, at least one meal service as well, not necessarily both breakfast and lunch, but at least one meal service. It does require that we do that review either the year before your regular administrative review or the summer after your administrative review. So like I said, those of you that are scheduled for a review should have already been contacted by state agency staff with a list of things that we will be looking for and scheduling a date and time for them to do your review. Your SSO review is much, much less invasive than your regular administrative review. Be very short and sweet. Okay, so let's talk about some CEP reminders. So on this slide, you're going to find the listing of the CEP deadline dates. Basically what we're focusing on now is that your CEP elections are going to be due in eScholar by June 30th, and that is for the 25-26 school years, which are going to be electing to participate in CEP. So I'm going to refer everyone back to your CEP elections training that took place on May 20th. It's on Louisiana Fit Kids. We had the recording and the slides. If you need to rewatch it or if you have any additional questions, go back and refer to that training. Again, some things to note from that training is that this year, all CEP elections will be completed in the eScholar CEP Manager. I know some people get confused and think we're still doing it in our system, but this year it's going to be in the eScholar CEP Manager. It is currently open for those that want to go and submit, but I'm going to ask that you please do not submit if you have any issues or if something appears incorrect. We want you to contact us to resolve those issues prior to submitting those CEP elections. And we will talk about some CEP office hours that we have in the next few slides. So I kind of took some screenshots from that CEP training to just kind of go over in a nutshell exactly what's going to be required. So for the elections, the recalculate tab, which is basically the calculate worksheet, it's step one, which is the election section. You have to select a participation decision for each site, or you can select district-wide if you're eligible. So in this section, in step one, you are looking at your sites and you are selecting the participation decision, whether you're going to do in a cluster, whether you're going to individually participate, or whether you're not going to participate, or if you're going to participate district-wide. So that's going to be step one. So in the second step for elections participation summary section, you're going to then select a base year decision for district-wide or individually participating site or cluster. So that's whenever you're going to select create a new base year or how you're going to do it. And then on the election submissions tab, or the step 3, you're going to review and verify the elections data before you submit. And you have to certify that information by checking the box next to the certification statement. And then after checking that certification box, you're going to click on Submit and Certify Elections button. And then after certifying and submitting, that election status on the top of the page will change to Submitted. So if you have questions or if you're not sure what you need to do or need to be step-by-step process of being walked through it, please contact us. The main two people that are working with CEP right now are Mary Katie Moses and Kylie Champagne. Their email address and their phone numbers are on this screen. Again, we will go over a memo in a few minutes about how we're going to have office hours. They will be available to help you during those office hours as well. Okay, so now let's go over some final rule reminders because we do have some changes that are effective July 1st. We did go over this on last month, so these slides are a repeat, but I wanted to go over again as this is basically, we have 1 month before this goes into effect. So the final rule does establish the following added sugar limits in school lunch and breakfast programs. So beginning July 1st, there's a product-based limit to be implemented. So breakfast cereals may have no more than 6 grams of added sugar per dry ounce. Yogurt may have no more than 12 grams of added sugars per 6 ounces. And flavored milk may have no more than 10 grams of added sugar per 8 fluid ounces. So again, that starts July 1st. So another thing that starts July 1st is that the final rule aligns the NSLP after school snack meal pattern requirements with the CACFP snack meal pattern requirements. The rule does not change the requirements for after school snacks served to preschoolers, so existing requirements for after school snacks served to preschoolers remains in effect. So when you look at the requirements that the snack meal pattern, CACFP requires snacks to include 2 of the following 5 components. You have your fluid milk, which must serve unflavored milk to children that are 2 to 5, or can serve unflavored or flavored milk to children ages 6 and older. You have vegetables, you have fruits, you have grains, which we'll talk about, but grain-based desserts may not be used to meet the grain requirement. That is new. That is what the major change is whenever you start making the NSLP match the CACFP meal pattern. And we'll go over the grain items on Exhibit A in the next couple of slides about what is not creditable for after-school snacks starting July 1st. And then the last component is meat or meat alternate. So here is the CACFP snack meal pattern, which now matches what NSLP snack meal pattern will be starting July 1st. So as I just said on the previous slide, your fluid milk, if your age is between 2 to 5, it has to be unflavored, and age 6 and above can be unflavored or flavored. And then the grain-based desserts may not be used to meet the grain requirement. And those grain items are those items that are on Exhibit A with superscripts 3 and 4 that are not creditable, and I will show y'all that on the next slide. So here is a snippet from the Exhibit A food buying guide for the grain-based desserts. So any item that's in red is not creditable or will no longer be creditable for NSLP after school snacks starting July 1. Okay, so let's talk about Buy American. This is also part of the final rule. So USDA established in regulations a new threshold for school food authorities that use exceptions. The limit on the percent of total commercial food costs from non-domestic foods will be phased in over 7 school years, which starts next school year. And this phased-in approach will allow schools to gradually adjust to the new requirement and will allow USDA to continue to collect data on the use of the Buy American exceptions. So starting next school year, 25-26, the non-domestic food purchase cap will be 10%. And here are the federal regulations regarding Buy American. They're linked on the slide, and the regulations will include, your definition of Buy American, what's required in the language, those limitations and exceptions, as well as the temporary accommodation for next school year. So we talked about this, and we've had a memo sent out about this, and we've had the form added to our website. The exceptions tracking standard form is an optional template that school food authorities can use to document the use of the exceptions to purchase non-domestic foods under this Buy American provision. So the link is on this slide. It's going to take you to it'll take you to the USDA website where you can find that tracking form. And then we also, like I said, have it on our CNP website under school food service form. Basically, the purpose of the form, though, is to track the costs related to those non-domestic product purchases. School food authorities will input the data related to the non-domestic product costs into that exceptions tracker tab, and then that exceptions summary tab will help you calculate its percentage of cost from non-domestic product with specified time frame. I will say that we did have a USDA town hall meeting last week, and we really did not receive any further guidance on Buy American besides that SFAs are needing to track. We have still not received, again, any further guidance as to when we go out to you, what are we looking for to show? Are we looking for supporting documentation? Are we, making sure that you, basically we asked if we have to make sure that they are tracking, and how do we determine how much in depth do we have to go? And we have still not received any further guidance on that. So all I'm asking at this time is that everyone tracks their non-domestic purchases. And as we receive further guidance from USDA, we will definitely let you know. Which leads me to my next slide, talking about how you have to document those products, and you must be able to produce documentation as needed. At this time, we do not know what that documentation will be. So you don't need any type of pre-approval or waiver from us to use those exceptions. It's just the fact that you have to document those non-domestic purchases. So again, if you need more information regarding Buy American, please refer to those regulations. I will say they did allow to have what is called a Buy American accommodation process for next school year, for school year 25-26. The USDA memo is linked on this slide. So if you're an SFA that's seeking a temporary accommodation from the Buy American threshold requirement, you should complete and submit to us the SFA accommodation plan for school year 25-26 that is attached to that memo. That is also on our CNP website. Because as we receive them, we have to process them, and then we have to report to our regional office on a quarterly basis the total number of accommodations that have been requested, how many we were able to approve, and then the types of non-domestic food products purchased that SFAs are requesting an accommodation for. If we receive an accommodation request and we're able to approve that request, we will continue to provide technical assistance to help you during that support of that temporary accommodation as you are demonstrating you were unable to meet that requirement. They did tell us last week as well on the USDA town hall meeting that if an SFA has any type of concern that they may not be able to meet the requirement, or they're not sure, they were recommended that they submit an accommodation plan to us to cover your bases. So this is what the form looks like that you're going to submit. You're going to submit it to the main email address, childnutritionprograms@la.gov. We will have you, we added it to the website, and then what we'll do is we review the completed request. We try to do it in as timely of a manner as possible. We may approve the request, or if we have to have any additional information or any questions about it, we will contact you and ask you to submit whatever else we're needing from you. And then we will notify you in writing if and when it's approved. And again, we will provide that technical assistance to you as just to help you be able to meet that requirement. Okay, let's go over a few USDA updates based off of last week's call that we had with them. So the most recent town hall meeting we had last week, I believe it was Wednesday or Thursday of last week. So we are being told that the paid lunch equity tool is coming soon. We did have a memo that we will go over about who has to complete the tool, but the actual tool with instructions has not come out yet. We currently have that training for the PLE tool scheduled for June 24th. However, we may have to change the training date depending on when we receive the actual tool. We had a lot of questions about the reimbursement rates for next school year. We have not received them yet, and USDA had no update as to when to expect. If you want to compare to last year we received those reimbursement rates the first week in July. So I would expect around the same time this year to receive the reimbursement rates. We did have a few questions about the free and reduced lunch application prototype for school year 25-26. Again, we have not received it yet, and we have no update on it from USDA at this time. Regarding the 2025 grant, we were told last week that it should be coming soon and that USDA is still working on it and expect the same, approximately the same amount allocated as in previous year. But then an article came out today that there's a chance that saying that there's proposed bill that we may not get these grants. So again, it's a day by day, it changes all the time. So as of now, we were told that it should be coming. We have not also received any update on civil rights, the and justice for all posters. Excuse me. We were told that they're waiting for a clearance for printing. And we want to make a note that we are aware that there is a new non-discrimination statement on USDA's website. However, we were told again last week by USDA that they have not received any further guidance, and therefore we need to hold off on updating any of our forms or documents and etc. until we receive further guidance from them. So that's all we have right now from USDA. Okay, so let's talk about the legislative updates. So the 2025 legislative session is well underway. As a reminder, our Department of Education, the Division of Nutrition Support, we can't take a stance on any legislation relating to child nutrition programs during the session. However, we do want to share information regarding the proposed legislations that may impact your programs in Louisiana, just so that you are aware. So on the Senate side, we currently have 3 pieces of legislation that are applicable to child nutrition programs. So first, we have Senate Bill 117 by Senator Miguez. This bill was heard and passed through the Senate Education Committee, the Senate floor, and House Education Committee. It will restrict the use of 7 food dyes and 8 additional ingredients used in ultra-processed foods that are used in child nutrition programs. This would impact both public and non-public schools. The proposed legislation no longer requires that 20% of the purchases be made in Louisiana, but it now states through an amendment that it shall, to the extent practicable, purchase foods produced in Louisiana, subject to an appropriation by the legislator for such purposes. So prior to this, you had to do 20%. Now they took that out and says to the extent practicable. So the next, we have Senate Bill 14 by McMath, and this was presented in the Senate Health and Welfare Committee. This bill has also passed through the Senate floor and the House Health and Welfare Committee and passed through the House floor. This proposed legislation restricts the use of 7 dyes and 12 additional ingredients from school meals. Again, this legislation applies to both public and non-public schools on NSLP. And while there is more to this legislation that doesn't apply to child nutrition, Currently, this would go into effect for school meals in 27-28 school year. So both are kind of similar, but they also have their different things about the different bills. And then lastly, we have Senate Continuing Resolution 20 by Senator McMath, and this is being heard in the Agricultural, Forestry, and Aquaculture and Rural Development Committee. And then this Senate resolution memorializes Congress and the USDA to reinstate and fund the local food for schools program. It has passed Senate Ag Committee, Senate floor, and House Ag Committee favorably. So on the House side, we have House Resolution 3, and that requests that the Department of Education to study the feasibility of and the potential costs associated with the Senate bills that we just talked about on the last slide. And this report would be due to the House Committee on Education no later than 60 days prior to the convening of the 2026 session. And then we have House Resolution 4 that urges and requests the U.S. Congress to support funding by purchasing American-grown agricultural products and the removal of ultra-processed food and beverages from K-12 public schools. In this document, it doesn't appear that ultra-processed is really defined. So both House H.R. 3 and H.R. 4 have passed through the House Education Committee and the House floor. So again, our department is here to provide information to you and to answer any technical questions for stakeholders throughout the legislative process. But if you would like to get involved, you can contact someone with SNAL chapter or in your region that can help you get involved. I believe legislation ends next week or the following. I think it's by the 6th, 15th or 16th of I think it's next week. So we should know more once legislation officially ends. Okay, let's briefly talk about Sunbucks. This is also a repeat from last month. So again, Sunbucks is that one-time $120 benefit to help families buy groceries for eligible school-age children during the summer break. And it basically lists on this slide that children that are automatically enrolled and then children who attend CEP schools will need to apply if they don't qualify through those methods that are described in the slide. Excuse me. Benefits will be distributed or should have been distributed in mid-May, and they were loaded onto the existing EBT cards or mailed on new cards in envelopes. Families need to make sure that their mailing address is up to date and hold on to their child's EBT card for future use. And for general information about Sunbucks, like some question and answers, they can go to the Food Nutrition Services USDA website, Summer Sunbucks. And then these are things that you can do for your district to help to maximize the Sunbucks for your students. So basically, number one, just encourage your families to use the Sunbucks program. Make sure that your eligible families know how to access the program. Direct parents to the right source of information so you can direct them to the DCFS Sunbucks website, and it's linked on this slide for more information. Parents may have questions about eligibility, how to apply, or how the program works. Again, we are not the lead agency in this, DCFS is, so if we're contacted, we're telling parents to contact or look on the DCFS website. We just ask that, SFA spread the word and let households know about the program and encourage families to ensure that, like we just talked about, that their address is up to date. And then remind families that have lost their cards to call the number on the slide, or they can go to their website or even the app and use the cafe to request a replacement card if necessary. And on the bottom of this slide, I also linked the Sunbucks family flyer that you can find on on the DCFS website. Okay, let's go over the memos that were posted since the May monthly call. We have a few to go over today. So the first memo is SFS 25-54. This is actual USDA memo regarding the using federal funds to purchase local foods. So this memo reminds schools, sponsors, and institutions participating in any USDA child nutrition program, which that would include National School Lunch, School Breakfast, Fresh Fruit and Vegetables, Special Milk Program, CACFP, Summer Food Service, and even Seamless Summer. It basically reminds them of the many ways that they can purchase local foods to serve in program meals. USDA offers a variety of policy memos, fact sheets, and other resources to support that local procurement. And these resources are available on the USDA website, basically under that Farm to School Procuring Local Foods website. And I'll have it linked on this slide for you. The next memo was about the April Medicaid free and Medicaid reduced lunch file. The districts need to resolve the matches that are listed on this slide. And if you have any or need assistance or you have any questions, please email Jane. And then the next memo, the 25-56, was about the April SNAP antenna files that were loaded to eScholar Direct Match. And again, the districts need to resolve any near matches for the matches that are listed here below. And again, please email Jane if you need assistance. Okay, so this memo is a USDA memo, it's SP 13-25. It's the full year continuing appropriations and extensions act, the effect on child nutrition programs. So this memo provides notice that to child nutrition operators about that full year continuing appropriation and extensions act that came into effect on March 15th of 2025. So basically it applies to state agencies and local organizations operating in a USDA child nutrition program. So basically, an overview of it is crediting of vegetables at breakfast. So this in the 2025 Appropriations Act extended the 2024 provision that allows school authorities to participating in school breakfast to credit any vegetable offered in place of fruit without including vegetables from other subgroups in the weekly menu. This general provision is effective for the remainder of the 2024-25 school year. So basically, it was through the end of this school year. But starting next school year, 25-26, it has to be consistent with the current school breakfast program requirements that are set at CFR 220.82, that schools must offer at least 2 vegetable subgroups at breakfast per week if you're going to offer vegetables in place of fruit at breakfast more than once per week. So you basically had an allowance to offer any vegetable subgroup this past school year, but now going into next school year, we have to match what regulations say. The next one is about prohibiting the use of chicken and seafood from China. Excuse me, y'all. The 2025 Appropriations Act extends the 2024 revision that program funds may not be used to procure raw or processed poultry or seafood products from the People's Republic of China. This prohibition applies to all child nutrition programs and remains effective through September 30th of 2025. And then the last part about it is about the compliance with the paid lunch equity requirements. So under the 2025 Appropriations Act for school year 25-26, only SFAs that had a negative balance in the nonprofit school food service account as of June 30th of 2024 are required to establish a price for paid lunches. So basically, you have to complete the paid lunch equity tool. Any SFA with a positive or zero balance in its nonprofit school food service account as of June 30th, 2024 will be exempt from PLE pricing requirements. So basically, you would not have to complete the PLE tool for school year 25-26. And we will talk about that more in the next slide. Okay, so this memo is another USDA memo, and this is about the paid lunch equity guidance for school year 25-26. So again, We have received guidance on who needs to complete the tool, but we have not actually received the tool. So we cannot provide you with the training yet until we receive the tool with the instructions. So the purpose of this USDA memo is to provide guidance to state agencies and SFAs on the paid lunch equity requirements for school year 25-26. This memo explains the PLE exemption provided in the full year Continuing Appropriations and Extensions Act. Oh, sorry, y'all. This memo also provides guidance for SFAs that do not qualify for the exemption. So, first off, SFAs qualifying for the 25-26 PLE exemption are going to be your SFAs with a positive or zero balance in their nonprofit school food service account as of June 30th, 2024. So again, you're going to be exempt if you have that positive or zero balance. You do not qualify for the exemption if you have a negative balance in the nonprofit school food service account as of June 30th. So you must follow those PLE requirements when establishing your paid lunches for the 25-26 school year. SFAs may use the forthcoming PLE tool to determine the required paid lunches. And again, we will have that PLE tool and instructions will be provided in a separate communication as soon as we receive it. All right, this memo SFS 25-59, was basically to serve a reminder of the Zoom link, the updated Zoom link for the CEP elections that took place on May 20. And then this memo is about the CEP elections guidance and office hours. So this is a reminder for SFAs to submit their CEP elections in eScholar for the 25-26 school year by the June 30th deadlines. Community eligibility provision elections to participate must be completed in the eScholar CEP Manager, and we have a link to the portal on this slide. We do highly recommend, like we talked about earlier, viewing the May 20th CEP elections trainings slides and recording that's on the Louisiana Fit Kids website. And what this memo basically is inviting you is to, if you would like to log on to office hours, if you need assistance, the first one is actually today after this call is why I'm trying to get through this training within the hour, is because the first one would be at 2:00 today. And then we'll have one each week until the last week of June. In this memo, there are links for the calendar invite and the Zoom links. But if you have questions that are outside of these office hours, please email those questions or request a one-on-one for assistance with your elections to Mary Katie Moses or to Kylie. And their emails are on this slide. All right, let's talk about trainings. So today we had our June monthly call. Then on June 24th, currently we are scheduling to have the training on the average meal cost and the paid lunch equity tool. Again, if we have to delay that, we will notify you. It's based off of when we were going to receive our guidance from USDA to determine when we can have that training. Right now, July 1st is our next scheduled monthly call, and we are in the process of scheduling the NSLP annual application training. It will most likely be in those last 2 weeks of July as it normally is, but I'm finalizing some things with our program, my IT program people, to make sure we have everything ready to go before I actually decide on a date for that training. These trainings will be posted to Louisiana Fit Kids soon, so please register when they are available. So June 24th through the 26th, we're going to have the virtual manager training. It is my understanding we have quite a few people that have registered for this virtual manager training. So if you still are interested in taking that virtual manager training, please make sure to register on Louisiana Fit Kids. Again, this is virtual manager training. So registration is open, and I believe we have over 100 people registered for this manager training at the end of June. So we also are going to be offering an in-person manager training at the end of July, and that's July 28th through the 30th. This one has a cost associated with, it's $75. It's 2 full days, and then basically the third day is a half of a day of training and then a half a day of assessment. This training is limited to 40 participants, so please make sure to register or to reserve your spot. Again, on this one, you can register on Louisiana Fit Kids. For those of you that may be interested, the Culinary Institute of Child Nutrition is hosting a webinar on June 5th at 2 o'clock. You can register on the ICN website that's linked on this slide. The webinar is titled How to Reduce Sugar at Breakfast, Practical Applications from School Kitchens. And in this webinar, child nutrition operators will highlight practical strategies that they have utilized in their school kitchens to reduce sugar in their breakfast menus. You're going to gain insights into how creatively to modify your breakfast offerings by incorporating natural sweeteners, whole fruits, and protein-rich options. You'll also learn how these changes can support student health, align with the new meal patterns, and enhance performance in the classroom. So if you're looking for new recipe inspiration, this webinar will offer practical ideas to help you deliver lower sugar breakfast to enhance your school meal. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and register on the Institute of Child Nutrition's website. Another thing that was posted on the Institute of Child Nutrition is the Produce Safety Webinar Series. So this is, it's actually 3 interactive training sessions that will help you connect with America's farmers to school meals and strengthen strategies to encourage healthy choices, healthy outcomes, and healthy families. So the first one is on June 3rd at 2 o'clock. The second one is going to be on June 16th at 2. And then the third will be June 17th at 11:30. And again, you can register on the Institute of Child Nutrition for those webinars if you were interested. So I wanted to mention this because we did have a couple of people ask about this already. So we will be offering a limited number of in-person back-to-school trainings this year. You can begin sending in your requests to the general email address. But please, when you send in those requests, you must specify the dates, the time, and location, because we need to know if we're going to be available. I can't just say that you can't just send an email saying you're requesting training. We need to know details so that we can make sure to put you on the schedule. We will only be offering civil rights and offer versus served trainings. So we will basically let you know once you send in the request. We put it into a list, and it'll be based on the availability of staff, and we will take them in the order that we request that we receive them. So please, if you know for sure and you know a date and you know a specific location, please email us early so that we can add you to the list, and hopefully you can be one of the ones that we'll be able to present to. So a few reminders. Equipment grant, the 2024 equipment grant, everything is due by June 9th. I think we're down to a couple of people left. So make sure that if you were awarded that 2024 grant, that you turned in your purchase orders and you request the online funding by June 9th. And again, Stacy is the main contact. Her number and her email is on this slide. If you haven't done it yet, I'm sure you've been receiving emails and phone calls from her at this point. So please, if you want your equipment grant, make sure you turn it in by the deadline. I want to remind everyone again about the Healthy Meals Incentive Awards. This is coming almost to the end as well. Applications will close on June 30th. So if you do want to apply for the Healthy Meals Incentive Recognition Award, please make sure you get those applications in by June 30th. And then another reminder about the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program. We've talked about this a couple of times before. Remember that the 24-25, for those of you that do the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program, the 24-25 allocation period is October 1, 2024 through September 30th, 2025. We do strongly encourage SFAs to aim to have their fresh fruit and vegetable money spent by the end of the school year. So put your claims in if you haven't done so already. If not, you will need to renew your app after you submit your new application for the 25-26 school year. All right, with that, we will take any questions. I am going to look in the chat to see if we have anything. In regards to the non-discrimination statement, at this point, you can use what you currently are using. We have not received further guidance from USDA to switch to the one that is on the USDA website. So for now, you should be good to use the one you're currently using. If we receive guidance between now and the start of the school year, we will definitely let you know. In regards to the negative balance, you can't have a negative balance, but you have to have a transfer in if you have a negative balance, if that makes sense. If you need to contact us for more specifics, we can discuss. Just send us an email or give us a call. And I was correct. We have over 100. We have 128 people registered for the virtual, and we are about halfway full for the in-person. So make sure if you want to do that in person, you register to save your spot. If you are CEP, you don't do the PLE2 because you are not pricing district. PLE2 is for those that are pricing, have to do paid lunches. And again, we will have that training out as soon as we receive the PLE2 with the instructions. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat, and I don't want to keep y'all too much longer. Again, if you are interested in going on to the CEP office hours, those will start at 2 o'clock today. Refer to that memo that has the link to the Zoom link and the link to the calendar invite if you would like to log on at 2 o'clock today for the CEP elections office hours. So with that, I will let y'all go for today. Thanks for coming to the training, and we will see you next month.